Oh, come on, man. I can't believe this. Yeah, I'm going. Hang on. Oh, jeez. Hello, happy people, and welcome to your Moment of Zed, the YouTube channel dedicated to the most beautiful car in the world, the BMW Z3, or as the folks in British Honduras call it, the Z3. I'm Mark, and today we're going to tackle a fairly simple maintenance item, changing out the manual transmission oil or manual transmission fluid, depending on who you ask, because this, much like the last thing we did, the differential oil, is a little bit controversial, and we'll talk about that. But first, we have 3 Zeds of the week. And first up, we have Adam with his 1998 2.8 liter Roadster, which had a blown motor. He then bought a 2.8 liter from a 1998 328i and swapped the engine in his driveway. Very impressive. He also replaced all the rubber gaskets, every bushing in the car, all the stereo parts, as well as the entire fuel system. Future plans include Bilstein B8 shocks all around, lowering springs, 16-inch BBS rims, and individual throttle body intakes. Next up, we have Reese from San Diego, who, like me, is a retired Coast Guardsman. Thank you so much for your service, Reese. He recently purchased this 1998 Roadster with 189,000 miles from a former coworker. Reese had always admired her car, so when she was ready to sell, she thought of him first. He plans to fix the car up slowly as he can. Finally, we have Christopher from Pennsylvania with his 2001 2.5-liter Roadster with 70,000 miles. Modifications to Christopher's car include Style 68 wheels with 25mm spacers in the rear, BC Racing coilovers with Swift springs, a MagnaFlow exhaust, and a rare Cosmo Racing cold air intake. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your beautiful cars. If you'd like to see your car on Zed of the Week, please follow the easy instructions in the description below. And now on to that transmission. Okay, so we've got the car up on 4 jack stands with the Rhino ramps is somewhat of a backup up front, and out back is the jack, just to save my life in case. And we're going to go underneath. And the first thing I need to see is the recommendation for which transmission fluid to use. Okay, so up under the car, you've got a 17mm drain plug. Now yours may be different. Yours may be a 15 or a 14, so check that out before you start this project. And then, just as importantly, we have the fill, which is on the passenger side of the transmission. Now, right above that fill is the label for the recommended transmission oil. Mine's yellow, MTF LT1. Yours might say MTF LT2. Yours might say Dexron 3, which is a different color. I think it's an orange label. That's the recommendation for changing out the lifetime, supposedly, transmission oil. But let's get out from under the car for a minute and talk about those recommendations. Okay, so we know we've already exceeded the lifetime that anyone would recommend. What's a lifetime for the transmission fluid or oil? 50, 60,000 miles, what most people seem to say. I have 120,000 miles on the car. I don't know if it's ever been changed. I assume it has been, but I can't be sure. The more controversial thing is, what kind of oil are we going to put in? Now, you've seen my tag says MTF LT1. That's kind of an old spec. If you want that actual BMW oil, if you're the kind of guy who still has the original air and the original tires and you want to change with BMW only stuff, you can order it online. It's about $40 a quart, which seems to me to be very excessive. Again, this comes down to preference. You could get Royal Purple, Mobil 1, Valvoline, Redline. I've chosen to go with the Redline D4. Now this is ATF, supposedly automatic transmission fluid. And maybe you say, oh no, you can't do that, it's a manual transmission. You can. Right here on the back of the bottle, it says recommended for, and there's BMW MTF LT1 or MTF LT2, and also recommended for Dextron 2 or 3. So if your tag said Dextron 3, as we talked about, you could use this as well. And look, if you don't feel comfortable with that, Redline makes an MTF. I think it's a 75W80 with GL4 protection. So I'll put the links to all these things, these discussions, the actual Redline website that recommends D4 for all of our transmissions, basically. I'll put all those links in the description so you can go down the rabbit hole yourself if you want. But for me, I'm going to go with the D4. I'm going to go with Redline this time. I know many of you use Redline. And again, check out those links in the description for a more in-depth discussion about all this, just so I can keep this video a smidge shorter than the last one. So here we go. Okay, so back up underneath the car after we figured out what we're using. And now two things. I took this car out and warmed it up for a maybe 20-minute drive just to get the transmission oil a little thinner. I also hit up both fittings, the fill and the drain, with some penetrant and putting on not much room here. So I've got a short 17 millimeter socket on a 3/8 ratchet, and it's not that long, but using a breaker bar, I went ahead and opened it up. Always open this first, just like the differential. If you can't open this and you do the drain plug first, you're not going to be able to refill your transmission. So we got that going on, and then we're going to go ahead and do the, if we can get this off, there we go. We can go ahead and get the drain plug off. Again, I'm using the use a little bigger wrench with the impact socket as 1/2 inch, and I did need to use a breaker bar, but actually broke away fairly easily. I've got the drain pan under it, of course. Again, I warmed it up on a nice drive this morning, and now it's just a matter of letting this drain out. And again, how fast can you get your hand out of the way? The usual thing with any of these. And always best just to drop the plug and pull it out later and wipe it out. And there we go, with a good amount of splashing. And I've got to tell you, it really looks kind of used up. It's kind of hard to say. It's thin, which I kind of expected. It looks pretty black, and I got a little cleaning up to do, but there you have it. Not all that difficult at the end of the day. And I'm just going to let it sit there and let the last little bit of it drip out and clean up, and then we'll get back to filling. So we've dripped our last drop and cleaned up the plug. Now this plug doesn't have any kind of crush washer or any other kind of gasket. It's just got a lot of threads, and I'm going to go ahead and put this in. You can kind of feel the resistance there, even though I know the threads are clean. I'm going to go ahead and make this just snug. Snug will fill without any problems. And when we're filled and completely done, I'll go ahead and torque this to the recommended torque, which is 37 foot-pounds or 50 nanometers. I'll mention that again, but 37 foot-pounds for this and the fill. So let's go ahead and get this filled up. So here's my fill rig. This is that same slippery Pete pump that I got off Amazon that worked real well for the differential. The only thing is the threads don't match between the the pump and this kind of bottle. So I just hit it up with some tape just to stabilize it. It doesn't have to be sealed. So that's what we're going to use again. We've got the fill rigged up into the fill hole. There's our bottle, and we're just going to go ahead and pump that in. Now you got to do is pump it in until it starts leaking out. I've got a rag underneath it, which I'm sure is completely out of position, so I can drip all over the floor. But basically, we're just going to fill, and again, simple pumping motion, and once it is full, it'll start leaking out the bottom edge of that fill hole. Again, the convenient thing about this slippery Pete is it's got that little third hand, as I think they call it, that holds that into the fill hole, so I don't have to deal with it. And we're just going to fill that up. This should take, and I think we're starting to leak out already, so we're going to give that a minute. Supposedly this is supposed to take a whole quart and part of another one, and I haven't found that to be true on the differential, and I'm not finding it to be true now, but I'm going to double check that, and we'll see how much we get in. You're not going to have to watch the whole pump. That would be very boring. Okay, and as you can see, once you get it filled to the right amount, it'll start leaking out a little bit. Nice thing about the slippery Pete pump is that you can pump that real slow, and it won't overflow on you quite so quick, because once it starts overflowing, it really starts overflowing. Now I have to clean up the threads on the plug a little bit, and also for initial tightening, found my 17mm combination wrench, and I'm just going to tighten that up, wipe up any more excess that comes out, and then I'm going to get the torque wrench on it, and it's going to go to 37 foot-pounds or 50 Newton meters as well, just like the plug. So we'll do both of those, and that is a wrap for this job. By the way, it took about 1 1/4 quarts, of the D4 Redline ATF. So folks, there you have it. A very easy job to do. The hardest part is choosing the oil, as always, it seems. Hey, if you found this content valuable, please crush that like button as always. And until next time, remember, friends don't let friends drive boring.